Welcome back to Prehistoric Reviews, where we take a look at Joker Folie, aka just Joker 2. Everybody on the internet and basically almost the whole world basically just did not like this movie at all. The whole film of this was so bad that it ended up making the director, Todd Phillips, never want to work on another DC film, and was basically the last Joker film of the whole thing. Which I think is honestly for the better, because this film is just a bit kind of just over the place and just has random spots in it. So from what I was able to very much gather, at least within all the movies, that is very much just kind of Arthur just trying to at least have a connection with somebody that kind of at least, shares within his madness. And the whole film is essentially just about how that Joker and Arthur are basically kind of just one and the same person. This whole thing is just that people want to see Joker, but nobody wants to see Arthur Fleck. Nobody cares about that. And I feel that the whole message of that was kind of lost into the very at least around the third act for the most part, because a lot of it just kind of feels it's just kind of going through all the other motions. They have neat shots of a lot of the things, and a lot of it is kind of at least on the musical aspect, which I'll talk about a little bit later. But everything kind of just feels it's just kind of just pulling at one spot over here, then another thing over here, then another thing kind of just happened and just does that, which just kind of just feels too random even for the Joker film, because at least with the previous one, it has a lot of the more multiple choice ones, which this is kind of honestly the biggest criticism I can honestly am going to be giving to the film, which is that the whole of it doesn't feel as if it's not doing anything smart with it. It's actually kind of pretty obvious just to when he very much is just being in his head as of now, because of the musical segments, and because you can know when it happens of all these musical segments. It doesn't really add a whole lot. In fact, they actually add as a lot more just filler. And to be fair, the musical segments I didn't have much of a problem with for the most part. They're most of them are fine for the most part. I didn't really have much of a issue or a problem with that, unless you're not a big fan of the musical, which you'll probably not like this one. But that's kind of just the thing with it. It just feels a lot more stoppers just to keep the film being a little bit extra long for the most part. And it really just does not do a whole lot to save it. And even without that multiple choice thing of guessing as to what is actually kind of real and versus what's actually happening, and it's obviously just telling us yeah, this is the whole thing. Some of these events are did confirm, which just really ruins a whole aspect of it, because the first Joker film, I know I keep bringing it up, but the first one, you never knew exactly what was going inside of his head. In fact, we can't even exactly discern in that first film as to what was real, what was not. Did it happen? Did it really never happen? Was it just all in his head? That was kind of the beauty aspect of Joker, because it could happen to basically anybody, and we could never be the know for the better. But with this one, it doesn't really do all that, and it kind of just focuses on the whole trial course of it, and the relationship that is between him and Harley. And speaking of those two, I really was not really feeling the whole lot of the love between the two of them, honestly. They feel just completely, utterly empty and kind of void of a lot of it. Especially kind of Harley's character for the most part, because Lady Gaga, she acted okay in the whole film, but she kind of just really kept it as a monotone kind of level to what kind of she kind of just acts. And it doesn't really do a whole lot. I mean, she's a good singer, which is probably the only reason she even wanted to be in the film in the first place. But she really doesn't add a whole lot of new layers or kind of depths. In fact, the only thing you kind of at least get with her is that she was kind of just a big fan of Joker, but she's not a big fan of Arthur Fleck. And you probably honestly, me telling you that is probably the biggest spoiler for a lot of the film, because honestly, I gotta agree with everybody when they say that the ending is just not good. In fact, just a lot of the parts of it, not good. Some of them are decently well. There are some moments where it truly did feel I was at least watching some parts of the actual original Joker, but then a lot of it just does not really hold out that well in terms of just being a scene, or probably introspection is into Arthur's entire psyche, which really it should be the main thing, because that's the fascinating part about it. But they just elected to just do a lot of these musical numbers, and they're fine on their own. I really don't have much of an issue, but it just really just does not. It kind of just becomes a halt and screeching halt to just do these musicals. Because I really thought they were gonna do a whole thing where something happened in reality, and then like, you know, they end up turning a whole thing where like we can't discern actually what the hell is even happening anymore. And I thought it was going to be like that, and it really just sold itself short on because of it. Now, I will give some positives about this film is that Joaquin Phoenix is a star show. Like if you really just came here for the Joker alone, then you'll be fine to admit that like Joaquin Phoenix is probably the only thing I can say is actually pretty good about this film. Like, aside from like all the other characters out there, which really don't do a whole lot, like they have like Harvey Dent, but like he kind of just acts as kind of like a lawyer, like a reference to like just Two-Face in like in general, and like all the other characters that like, you know, come back for the most part, like it's like play at least, you know, a part in the film. They don't do a whole lot aside from just being like either like the testimony or like the lawyer that ends up trying to, you know, at least see the sympathetic side of Arthur to like some of the guards. Like really there's only like a very like minimal cast in this entire film, and it's probably for the better, but it really didn't add itself all a lot because again the connection between Harley and Joker is just really empty. Like it's just pretty empty for the most part, and I really just do not see exactly as to why that they decided to go with it, because like I guess Warner Brothers just decided, you know, hey, you know, the first one was successful, let's do the second one. And I really thought they was gonna be doing, but I think like the inspiration for the La La Land, which is not just really executed all that well. Like I get what they were trying to go for, but like I honestly fully believe them when I literally saw that they didn't do a single like amount of screen testing for this film, and it probably really shows. Now I am going to be spoiling a little bit of the film, so if you haven't seen it already, this is your spoiler warning because I have to talk about the ending. The ending of the film, I have to say, probably one of the weakest endings out there. It's not a bad ending, but it's really just the most sloppiest ending you can get by having one of like a random dude that we have like seen constantly, at least in the asylum, being like a little bit obsessed with like Joker and being a big fan of him, being the one to just stab him and shank him in the stomach, which I really do not like. That is such like the most laziest like ending you can ever do towards like anybody, because I thought it was going to the direction of like when Joker at least gets out of the courthouse and he ends up beating like Harley on like the iconic stairs for like the dance. He would end up dying in the middle of the stairs, and Harley would end up just shooting him because it's no longer Joker, it's just Arthur Fleck. And it would have been nice because it's kind of like how Light in the anime of Death Note ends up dying, where like he ends up dying in the middle of the stairs, where like it's a gateway, it's the gateway to heaven, but it's also the bottom of it is hell. So he died in the middle of purgatory, not knowing which way his soul will end up going. And I thought it would have been a nice little thing to have done, because that would have been like a full nice thing to do, that like the one person that he was in love with was disappointed that like they actually just never loved him, and that would have been nice. But instead we just get like a random like fuck ass like dude that ends up just stabbing and killing him in like the asylum. Like it was honestly just the worst ending out of the whole thing, and I honestly do not blame people for very much saying that the Joker film was just really bad. Like I do like some aspects of it, and I think I see what is what they were trying to do, but man, it really just kind of undersold on so many things for the most part. And I have really had high expectations for this film because I really thought what they were cooking was probably good, but I put my expectations a bit too high for this film, and it kind of just came result was just like, well, it was alright. It was alright at best, but I always kind of prefer the first Joker film over like this one. So yeah, putting this onto Prehistoric Reviews, I'm gonna give this film a nice generous like 45%. It's not the worst film that I have seen in a long time, honestly. Like, it's far from that. I think people are kind of just over-exaggerating with it. But it's definitely one of the most weakest sequels to a beloved film that everybody likes. And yeah, that's what I say really about that all is to it. So yeah. Bye-bye.